All right, welcome to the first episode of DAO Talk interviews in 2023. This is episode, I think like 32 or 33. You're pretty up there in the guest list, but you're our first guest of the new year. We're here with Reza. Reza, welcome to DAO Talk. Give us a quick little intro on who you are, and then we'll kind of dive into your background and things like that. Give the people what they want to know.
Absolutely. So I'm Reza. I've been in the space since around 2016. Originally got in just as a trader. I discovered margin trading when I was like 20 something and made a bunch of money and lost it all really quickly. And then was like, well, shit, I still really believe in cryptocurrency, but I'm broke and I don't want to feel like shit if this blows up and I don't have any because I believe in it so much. So I got to find a way to get more crypto, but I'm broke. So maybe I can just find a way to work in the industry and I can get paid in crypto. And I just started like jumping into Discords. Again, this is like 2016. So I was going on, I went on CoinMarketCap and I went to like the third page. I was like, let me get out of like the top 500 to like the 600, 700 market cap coins. And I would just go to each page and open their Discord and pop in and be like, hey, my name's Reza. This is what I do. This is my experience. I want to work with you. Let me help. And like a few got back to me, and that's kind of how I got in the space. From there, I started writing about crypto, and I started publishing content on Medium in like 2016, I think. And at the time, there wasn't really any content about crypto that was aimed at beginners. It was all essentially written by developers and very like documentation-esque. So I started writing content aimed at the layman and became the #1 writer on like Medium and Quora for the subjects of cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum, investing, et cetera, et cetera. From there, I got picked up by a ICO accelerator in 2017 that picked me up to write white papers because they saw my writing. And then after that, I worked with Acoin, the rapper Akon, his cryptocurrency. I helped them launch that. And then started working with Decrypt, and I do a little bit with Reflexer. And that's everything. That's my life. Past 7-8 years.
Yeah, wow. 2016 was 7 years ago. That's wild.
Six, 7. Yeah, damn.
Six or 7. Yeah, that's wild. Did you have like a technical background when you got into like, margin trading in crypto, or was it like that was your first introduction to
No,
finance?
I had no idea what I was doing. I only understand finance in crypto terms. I don't understand anything about finance, but I can explain the collateralized debt position. Like I only know crypto. Everything I've learned about finance has been because of crypto. I've never been a math person. I've never been a finance person. It never really made sense to me, but I think because with crypto, you can play with it. Like with math and like a textbook, like you can't really play with the concepts. You can see them and you can like, think about it, like try and solve an equation or whatever, but you can't really like touch it. And I think that like with crypto, being able to touch and play with these really complex systems and concepts, for people who learn the way that I do, it's a lot easier to wrap your head around things.
Yeah, that's how I was. Like I was pretty into it in college, but I kind of hated it at the same time as something I just had to do to graduate. And then when I got to crypto, I'm like, wait, this is all the same shit, but I love this so much fucking more. And I think it is like, like being able to play with it, but also just like the intersection of like the culture side of things and how people just don't take themselves too seriously, which is, sometimes a pitfall of it as well. But I think it's way more fun that way.
Maybe it's because this is like our Ponzi. Like when you're studying finance, you're learning about our forefathers' Ponzi, how they got rich. Like we're learning about like this like bullshit system that they have created that is like, it works. It's the best working Ponzi in the world right now. But it's like, it's still like, okay, it's like, okay, like these are all the rules to play within this game. And in this game, the people who made it are already level 1000. They have mythic armor, legendary fucking swords. Like you're never competing with them. Like, why do you want to play that? I don't want to play that game. I don't want to play against like Giga Chads who are just going to like, kill me immediately.
That makes a lot of sense. That's a great way to look at it.
So like with crypto, it's our Ponzi, I'll take that over I'll take a fresh start.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, jump into like what are you working on right now? You mentioned a little bit with Decrypt. I know PubDAO is part of that as well.
Yeah. So I am on the product team at Decrypt. I was brought on originally. it's kind of cool. I was like on a Twitter space, just talking about DAOs, and I said, like, I really want to work with DAOs. And like a recruiter, Alec Gutman from, he was working at Consensus at the time, was in the audience and just DM'd me, and he was like, hey, like, I can help you work with DAOs. What do you want to do? And he just like introduced me to Decrypt and told me they wanted to start a DAO, and that's kind of how I got in the door with them. But essentially, we're trying to figure out what Web3 media looks like and are doing a lot of experimenting. We haven't solved it yet. We're still trying to figure it out. There's like a lot of different, I mean, you guys at Tally are also experimenting in this with Content Guild. It's the Wild West kind of, you know, like there's all these different initiatives. There's really cool projects like Rehash, Diana Chen's podcast. There's that thing that LDF is doing. Chaos was
Chaos is a public good.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure 100% what it is.
Yeah, but it looks cool.
That's the point, right? Like, that's the point. It's just like we'll figure it out as we go.
I don't know what it is, but I want to know, and I'm curious, so that this is working. But like, moral of the story, there's a lot of different like initiatives and efforts in Web3 to try and like rethink what media is going to be, and we're just trying to stay on top of it, launch our own experiments, and be a part of it, with the end goal of eventually creating some like Web3 media products that can generate like some form of like revenue that we could then turn and use to create some sort of like Web3 media grant program to just like fund both products as well as like publications and stuff like that.
For people who, before we dive into like the weeds of Web3 media, for people who don't know what Decrypt is, which I'm pretty sure most do, could just give us like a 2 or 3 minute or even less breakdown of what Decrypt is and what you guys are going to do.
So Decrypt is a crypto news publication. I believe it's one of like the bigger. I think there's maybe like 4 top publications that are kind of competing in the same ring, and Decrypt is one of the 4. We try to be super unbiased. It's definitely not aimed at the very like technical crypto native. It's more for people who just want to kind of get like a bird's eye view of what's happening. And Decrypt, since it started like long before I joined, they've had the goal, like since it was born, its goal has been to eventually decentralize and like actually become what it writes about. And when they brought me on, that was kind of like the beginning of that effort. They're like, okay, let's figure out what Web3 media is, and let's figure out how we can become that. You know, figure out how we can decentralize, give ownership to the people who are contributing and consuming, and build some cool shit, essentially.
Yeah, as you say that, it kind of made me realize that like I asked the question, "What is Web3 media?" And I don't know if you have an answer. I don't have an answer, but it's kind of like, you know, we are that, and we're kind of just figuring it out as we go.
Like this is Web3 media.
Yeah, you know, and like Content Guild and PubDAO and like Rehash DAO and all of these, like Seed Club is doing some really awesome shit with it. Like I know Steph, we've had her on the pod before, and Frisian interviewed her, and she could talk for hours about Web3 media and decentralized content and things like that. Like what would you say? Like maybe jump into is PubDAO is like it's a direct like brainchild of Decrypt. Is that right?
It's a brainchild of Decrypt, but it wants to be publication agnostic. So like we want many publications to be a part of PubDAO. We don't want it to be seen as like Decrypt's DAO that like only Decrypt is a part of. Like ideally, there's a bunch of publications, there's a bunch of writers. Yeah, like it's Decrypt's brainchild, but we want it to be everyone's DAO.
Yeah, that's kind of the idea behind Content Guild as well. Like something Frisian and I have like when we were talking about doing it, is like we want to kind of flip the traditional agency model on its head, because that's such a hard business that I think innately has like way too much exploitation of like the actual content creators, like kind of baked into it. And it's just like a cyclical, like take 30-40%. Okay, once you work your way up to the top of that agency, now you take 30-40% from the writers that are coming up again. So like what would you say is like what is your favorite part about PubDAO, and what you all are trying to accomplish moving forward? Like, what is it enabling, um, or what is making it different from traditional media models that makes it Web3?
This is really simple, but my favorite part of PubDAO is the public, just like the public bounty system we have. It was initially something we just did to kind of build a network of writers and like companies that we thought might be potential contributors or customers in the future. And so like PubDAO doesn't take any sort of fee. We just have this like public bounty board, and if like a Web3 company needs any sort of content done, they just like jump in the Discord and they're like, hey, like we need this written for our blog, or we need this documentation done, or whatever. And we throw up the bounty. A writer can pick it up, apply for it, and then just it happens. And we get like a decent amount of volume through that, of like actual content being written and writers, getting jobs. And because I was a writer for a really long time, and I know how hard it is to get paid as a writer, and how not valued your work is a lot of the time, how not valued your work is compared to how much you value your work. It's really cool to me that we have something that is putting money in writers' pockets, and that it's like, it's just happening. Like whether or not like I wake up and work or do anything, like it's still going to live and it's still going to happen. People are still going to put up bounties, and I think that's really cool. I'm excited about that.
How does the infrastructure for PubDAO work? Like with that, like you said, if you just wake up and it's happening, you're not doing anything. Like, is it run by like DAO members? Is it pretty open source to pretty much anyone? Is it automated? Like, how does it work?
So we don't have a token yet. So like we are as decentralized as we can be without being like truly decentralized. We're not really a DAO yet. So I have a few contributors who are anons that like I met through Discord. It was very like a very organic growth, and they pretty much like they have the keys communitively between them, and they can make like decisions. And I've worked with them for a long time and kind of trained them now. But the idea is that eventually that will pass on to the next generations and such and such.
So if a publisher comes in, like, and they want to fund content, are they making just is it an agreement like, hey, we're going to fund this many articles, or do they come in and they say, or whatever content, if they come in and they say, we want this piece of content, who can do it? You link it with someone from PubDAO, they create, and then the payment comes after the fact, or does it become before? Is it half and half? Like,
after.
what is the structure? After?
The payment comes after. It's been mostly like individual pieces of content. So the person will just like put up a prompt for what they're looking for, say like the audience they're talking to, how technical it's going to be. And then if we have any ideas of writers who are good for it, we'll suggest them. If not, people just apply.
Is the like curation process for new writers and new creators, like, is it more of I think I know the answer to this, but some people might not. Is it there's so many people and it's hard to find, or like to just make sure you're getting the right people, or is there a shortage of good competent writers, and you're having to do a lot of like outbound for it?
In the beginning, it was what you said first. There were so many people who wanted to help, and very little of them were good writers. Very little of them spoke English as a first language. And at the moment, English is like our primary language, and that's kind of a important thing is to be fluent in the language that you're writing in.
Yep.
So like in the beginning, when we first started, there were a lot of like Win Token Moon Boys who would just come in and like they're just trying to like farm bounties, grind out so they can get like an airdrop they think might maybe come in the future,
When did PubDAO launch? Was it in a bull?
About a year. It launched during the bull, I think.
Yeah.
So it launched right before I joined, I think.
Okay, cool.
So about a year and a month, year and 2 months ago. The bear market was probably the best thing that ever happened to PubDAO. Like when the bear market hit, all the like noise just left, and all that was left was the quality writers. And like there was a point during the bull market towards the end of it where I was like getting a little frustrated because like there was so much chatter, but it was just all bullshit, and like people just like farming and farming, just trying to be there, just trying to like get something. And then the bear hit, and like all of a sudden all those people leave, and when you leave you realize like how many quality people there are when they're the only ones that are left. And you're like, so it was really cool. That was the bear market's been awesome. The people that stuck around are all great, hardworking, and like they seem genuinely interested, which is
what matters, right?
yeah,
That's
that's
the
all
most
that matters
important
to me,
part,
really.
right? Yeah.
It's like
Yeah, I think. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm someone who came into this industry because of interest. Like there's people who got really interested in the industry and like they just found a way to work in it, and then there's people who were working similar corporate jobs and just transitioned, are doing the same job they were doing before but in a new industry, and that industry is crypto. Like they're not, this is just their job, and like this is not just my job. This is pretty much like all I fucking do. Like this desk is like I live right
Yep.
here in this like box. Like I'm all my friends are people I know through crypto. Like it's
Yeah,
I
something we've
sound
been
like such a
talking.
loser.
No, you don't. No, because this is literally how I feel too, and how we feel at DAO Talk. Like something we've been talking about a lot this week. I just had like a call yesterday with Frisian, and he just was like going off around like those particular individuals who are they've done the same job in a different industry, and they're kind of coming over now to here. So they're super competent technically. They understand, like they're capable, but they don't understand the culture of crypto, and they're not super interested in it in the way that like you or me or you are, your closest friends in this space are. And that's very obvious to us, which is very frustrating too. But that's kind of the cool. Like I see all these memes all the time. It's like there's the LinkedIn crypto people, and then the ones that are on Twitter who have no friends and need to find other interests besides doing this 24/7. But like I fucking love it. Like
Yeah.
I spent 2 or 3 years like post college in like traditional finance and consulting, and I'm like, I fucking hate every second of this. And just doing 9 to 5 and hating those 8 hours a day, to coming here and you work 24/7 pretty much, but like, is it work if you love it all the time? Like, yeah, you're more likely to get burnt out, but I don't know. I think you would agree. Like, this is way more fun.
Yeah, I genuinely love what I do. I have absolutely no complaints about work. I'm super interested in everything I'm working on, and like yeah, it's just awesome.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's rare. There's not a lot of people that like are genuinely excited about what they do, and it's like I feel really blessed, I guess, that I found something I'm so interested in.
Yeah. I mean, with the bear, I feel like that's most people who are, still trying to go full time DAO, full time Web3. Do you see, like, for me, for instance, I see that as like a positive. Like, yeah, we're in a pretty rough time in the market, and, very shaky ground, some would say, in terms of like the future of the space. But when I look to my left and to my right, and like talking with people like you and other people on DAO Talk and in DAOs, like I'm just motivated. I don't know exactly how it's going to happen, but like you said, if you have a group of hundreds or thousands of people who are just genuinely loving everything you're doing, like that's a pretty powerful force. Like what do you, I guess, what do you see for the future of like Web3 media? Do you think it's, I mean, I would hope you'd think it's positive. Like, what do you think is the biggest challenge, and what do you think is our biggest asset moving forward?
I think the I think the biggest challenge is that the people with the money and the brands and the power that allows them to actually rethink media are not the people who need to be rethinking it a lot of the time. Um, and not to like talk shit about myself, but like, I feel like that new media is going to be a lot more about the individual than about the brand. And like there will be the individual's brand, personal brands, but like I see it decentralizing a lot more in general. Everything just decentralizing, and I think that means like more power for the individual. But Have you ever seen there's this, I can't remember. I think it's Avenue 5 on HBO. It's like a show about uh, a spaceship cruise line in the future that like goes off and it like steers off course and they're like never going to get back to Earth. They're just like trapped in space. And there's it's like it's set in a near distant future, and they do this like fake news segment of like what news is like in the future, and it's basically like a Twitch stream of just this like blonde girl with like crazy makeup on and all these emotes popping off on the screen, and like the Instagram live feed like hearts coming out like crazy on like the right side, and she's just like doing the news, and it's this like crazy super like 5 second hit information thing, like moving on to the next thing, moving on to the next thing. And like I was kind of like, this is it. Like I don't know if I like it, but like this is probably what the future of like media is like individuals, really quick news bites, just like because people don't really give a shit anymore. Like you can, like just this morning I was asked to take like a 10-page slide deck and condense it into a single graphic that can fit like on a web page above the fold, and I'm like, okay, yeah, like I'll try and figure that out. But like it's kind of a metaphor for like the world right now is just like everything needs to get smaller and shorter and more condensed and like easier. You know, that's like the whole tech boom was all about making things easier, and like people have gotten really used to it, and I think that's going to affect media, and that like people
In a
like
positive
short
way or a negative way? Or both?
it'll be different. It might, we might think it's negative. The people who grow up with it might think it's the same way we think about our media. You know, I was just thinking about this with music. How like, isn't it crazy how rap music is pop culture, like pop music for people who are like 16, 15, 17 years old? Like rap, like my parents wouldn't let me listen to rap.
Yep.
You know, like my mom wouldn't let me buy like a 50 Cent album back in the day, and that's just pop culture now. But yeah, it's just like I think that's kind of, you know, it's just how things progress, and I think that's what media will look like too. And that like we're just going to look at it and be like, well, I can't believe this is like what's normal. I can't believe people only get news from reels, you know, or like.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about it recently. Like, what is my news intake like? I'm like, I don't really watch or read any traditional news outlets. It's primarily from like Twitter and Reels, right? And that's kind of like talking shit to myself. Like, I need to be a little more intentional with where I get news from. But then again, I feel like uh, there's not really any intentional innovation with, like, I think everyone understands like that's something new. What I'm saying, like what we're saying. Um, but I feel like there's not really much innovation in the traditional media sense. They're kind of just like waiting for someone to dethrone them.
It's hard. It's really hard because there's so many players involved. You know, there's the writers, there's the advertiser, there's the publisher, and there's so many players, and there's not a lot of money. There's not a lot of money in media. Like that's why like Forbes is struggling, and they've hoarded themselves out with like the Forbes contributor program, where like everyone can post an article on Forbes now. And media is a tough business. It's hard to be media with credibility and a conscience. Like it's really easy to be media and just like Decrypt gets thousands and thousands of emails a week from NFT collections being like, hey, we'll give you 100 grand, 200 grand for like a banner ad on Decrypt, like directing to our mint. And like every single one is you know, like you can make a lot of money if you get good traffic and you take money from people who need traffic. But like if you want to maintain credibility and actually have some journalistic integrity, it's difficult. It's not a super there's not a lot of margin besides the advertisement. That's like where 100% of the money is in advertisements, and that's what people hate. Like when you talk about Web3 media, a lot of it is like getting away from targeted ads. But like right now, we don't have a way for media to exist without targeted ads. So it's like, do you take the targeted ads so that you can consume media, or do you not consume either? Because that's your only option.
Yeah.
You either take the advertisement or you don't consume. And we need to figure out what that alternative source of income is if that's not going to be the way. But like I also kind of on that point, I also don't think that I think that people like ads get like a bad rep. If an ad is really targeted well, I don't mind. If I see a product I like, I fucking buy it. I'm like, okay, I'll take this shit. Like, thank you.
Yes.
I buy shit off
Yes.
Instagram all the time. The so like, and also with crypto, because your wallet is public, um, there's a lot of interesting stuff that can be done as far as like targeting goes. Not right now, but in the near future. I feel guilty talking about this because I'm also a very big privacy advocate. I joked on Twitter saying that if people don't start caring about privacy more, I'm going to start building the tools that I warn them about, and I'm actually doing that. I'm actually a
The
part of like
villain origin
creating some.
story.
Yeah, this is my villain arc. But yeah, like there's, I think that like with wallets being public, there could be like advertisements or offers or campaigns that are not malicious and not like, with wallets being public, if someone gives some sort of identifier to like identify who that wallet belongs to, whether that's like an email address or a name or something, any data point really, you can do a lot of interesting things that don't have to be like malicious or like offensive, or even like getting in your personal, making you feel weird, like, oh, how do they know I did that? You know, like when you talk to someone about a product and then all of a sudden you see an ad for it, like it's because like you know how much people can spend. You know how much they have to spend, and you know like what is like, you can look at their purchase history and be like, okay, like for the record, this is not something we're doing at Decrypt. I just think this is interesting. um, but you can look at someone's purchase history and like get a decent idea of like what kind of financial decisions they make, like what kind of, like, does this person make impulse buys, is this person like very conservative, does this person like, oh, they're on BSC, like they gamble a little bit, huh? You know, like there's a lot of information you can find just from like looking at someone's wallet, and then there's like interesting campaigns you can do there, and there's like good ways to connect like users with companies where it's genuinely mutually beneficial. Like, um, we get kind of jaded in first world countries thinking about like crypto compared to people in, you know, like India, Philippines, etc. Because like a lot of times the little bounties and the farming they do is like really meaningful amounts of money compared to the cost of living wherever they are. So like with with the kind of like targeting that you're going to be able to do like pretty soon, um, media sites are going to be able to connect, for example, like play to earn games with like huge amounts of users that are already fluent with the blockchain the game is on, that have like, you can be like, okay, I need them to have played with like these coins or these games before so that I know that they're going to understand the general mechanics of my game. Um, there's just all kinds of shit you can do. And it's like, it doesn't have to be bad. And I think it gets a bad rep, but I'm also one of the people who's given it a bad rep, so I can't really complain.
I mean, that kind of flows right into, you know, we always end the episodes with like these two or three open-ended questions, but what would you say is your favorite part about working in Web3? And then what is your least favorite part? And for your least favorite part, I would say also, like, if you could change one thing, what would you change? So that was a lot. What's your favorite part about working in Web3? Start with that.
My favorite part about working in Web3, um, is that like, well, it's kind of the reason I got into this industry, and like the reason I didn't get into finance is like, this is this is our Ponzi. You know, it's like you and I mean, I'm a very competitive person, and like I grew up overseas. I grew up in Dubai. I lived in the Middle East until I was 18, and I went to an American private school. All the kids I graduated with went to like Harvard, Yale, Stanford, NYU. I had absolutely no interest in going to like an Ivy League school, doing the whole, like, everyone just had their entire lives figured out, you know. And I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I thought anyone who thought they knew what they were doing was full of shit. So I kind of just went off and did my own thing. And the reason I didn't really want to follow in the footsteps of everyone that I grew up with, um, was because I'm highly competitive, and I went to school with a lot of really, really wealthy people, and I wasn't a very wealthy person. Like my family did decent, but like definitely wasn't in the top tier of like earners in my school for sure. Um, and I didn't realize it at the time, but I think that I kind of rejected school and like academia because I felt like I couldn't compete, and I was like, I'm just going to be the guy who doesn't do shit. And like I was absolutely terrible in high school. I think I had like a 2.7. Just really, really bad. Bad kid, suspended all the time. Not a good student. Um, and when I discovered crypto, I was like, this thing has only been out for like 3 years. Uh, if I get into it now, it's going to be very difficult for someone to have more experience than me. And like because I'm so competitive, that's really all it took. Was like, oh, this is an industry that I have high conviction in, and I can get a head start, and I can I can be one of the people that has all the experience. Like I remember it was also a time when I was first applying for jobs, and all the jobs, I was living in LA, they all pay like less than the cost of living, and they're insane hours and shit. And I was applying for them, and they were all asking like, oh, you need to have at least 4 years of experience in like this and that. And I'm just getting out of college. I have no experience, can't figure it out. And I think that kind of like put it into my head that like you just need to figure out your own lane. And if you don't want to compete in the other people's game, figure out your own game. And I think crypto is my game.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have. I mean, we've done like 30 of these now, and a lot of people's favorite thing comes back to like the empowerment and the idea of like, like you said, this is our Ponzi. It's the first time I've heard that, but like that idea is so true. Maybe said in different words, but
Yeah,
so true. What would you
I
say?
think everything
Okay.
is a Ponzi for a record. Like
Oh yeah, no, I think we
I
all
use
do.
that
Yeah,
term loosely.
yeah, yeah. All right. What's your least favorite part? And then like, what would you, if you could change one thing, magic wand, what would you change?
My least favorite part is hmm,
It can be something like super like trivial
probably
too.
the people that always reach out to you super smug whenever the market's down. Like, oh, hey, are you okay? Like, I saw your coin, like, your coin stuff is not doing too great, bud. Like, how are you? Like, I'm fine, man. Like, I have a job. Like,
Dude,
I'm going to be okay. You don't need to worry about me. My
I had
company sold the
a,
top.
I had a friend reach out and was like, is that NFT worth anything? And I'm like, it's worth like 0.01 ETH right now. So I'm like, no. And they just never
Yeah.
responded. So I'm like, oh, so you just text me that to dunk on me for no reason. Like you have no
Yeah.
idea what we're doing here. But yeah.
Yeah. I'll add one other like least favorite thing that's also kind of simultaneously my favorite thing is like the fact that it's 24/7. Like I love it because I have ADD and I always have something to do. But it is a lot, and like you said, like it does really contribute to burnout. Like I constantly have bags under my eyes. um,
Yeah.
Not a lot of
So
sleep.
what if you could change one thing? What would you change? Or like make one thing happen?
Hmm. I'd make everyone, if I could change something in the industry, or just like
Whichever way you want to take it.
if I could just make everyone get it.
Yeah.
Like if I could like simultaneously make all the gamers who hate NFTs and all the traditional finance people who are like just can't wrap their head, like if I could just like snap my fingers like Thanos and like all of a sudden everyone understood and they're like, oh, like that would be awesome. Like it really bothers. It doesn't bother me. It saddens me to see people who I really respect and find highly intelligent that just don't get it. And like it's not that I don't. It's not that I think I understand their points, but those are points that you make if you don't really understand what we're trying to do. Like it's just like a complete over the head miss. Yeah.
Do you think that's because of like do you think that they're making an active choice to like just not get it? Because I like you said, if they like really dug into it and understood it, or not understood it, if they really dug into it, they would understand it. Do you think it's just like subconsciously some of them understand like they're just making the choice not to do it because they don't want to understand it or they view it in a negative way?
I think that people subconsciously play roles. So like 99% of the time, people are on autopilot. And you create this autopilot program by watching TV, watching your parents, watching your friends, watching your family. And you build these ideas in your head without realizing it, of roles, of like a father role is, this is what a father is like. This is what a brother is like. This is what an asshole is like. This is what like a traditional finance guy is like. And as you build these roles, you like come up with ideas for how people act in those roles in your head, and then you act them out throughout your entire life on autopilot without realizing it. So like when like Peter Schiff is talking shit about Bitcoin, he's playing the role of the traditional finance guy without realizing it, and just being like, traditional finance guy sees thing that like making money really quick, it's on the internet, oh, like I know how we feel about this, like we don't like this thing, you know. Like I think it's just people playing roles people playing roles and kind of going along with the script.
So like, if I think everyone does that, right? So like us included. So how do you fight against that, right? Like what, like how do you be intentional on understanding your prejudice and what role you were playing, and if that role is serving you or serving, you know, who you're involved with?
This is something I've actually
question.
talked to Amin about, because I was reading. These are concepts of rationality. Like if you study rationality, the concept of roles and like the roles that we play in our minds, like is one of those concepts, and it's something that Amin from Rai and Spank Chain got me into. And I was talking to him about it because I don't know. Like I know how to catch myself when I'm being illogical. I'm not sure how to catch myself when I'm playing a role, because I think some roles are necessary. Like otherwise, like if we don't have scripts, we don't know what to do. You know, like there's a lot of shit that we just couldn't figure out. But I'm not sure. Like most of the time for me, it's kind of just like, it's easiest to explain this in terms of a relationship for me, like a girlfriend, boyfriend, or a husband and wife. Like I grew up in a Muslim country. But I'm not a very religious person. My dad is Muslim. Like I would go to the mosque every week, had like a Muslim upbringing. And I still have some like Muslim programming in my brain about like women and stuff like that, like conservativeness about women, to where like, I'll give you a very hyper specific example of a time I caught myself in a role last week. So last week, my wife posts an Instagram story, and in one of her stories, I was like, I thought like she was wearing. She's gonna get so mad at me for telling this.
You're clarifying it. It's fine. It's fine.
And like I saw his Instagram story, and I was like, oh, like that's like, I think she could wear a little bit more clothes than that. And I got like mad for a sec. You know, I was like what the hell? Like, why is my wife posting this? And then like I kind of stopped and was like, hey, like chill the fuck out. Like, why are you upset? I think the first question is like asking yourself, why do I think this?
Yeah.
And like, is that a legitimate reason to think this? Is thinking this helping me in any way? Does thinking this, like, is there any benefit of it? And like, if you can't answer any of those questions, you're probably being irrational and or playing a role or something.
Yeah, no, I've been thinking about that a lot too. Like I tweeted earlier this week, like if there's always something you're telling yourself or some lie you're telling yourself, always, right? And it's, you kind of just need to figure out what that is. And I kind of have that same, like I was raised in a religious household, but I'm not super religious, but I am like, you know, there are some programming things like you said where I catch myself. And I think like if you're just aware of it and you're you know, you're conscious, like you said, there's nothing wrong with thinking that, right? As long as you catch yourself and you realize, hey, I probably shouldn't be doing that. Why do I believe this? Not necessarily believe it. Why did I react this way? And all these like subconscious cues. But yeah, I think it's just being aware. But you can also go too far down the rabbit hole and be like, oh, I'm too cerebral. I'm thinking too much. It's just like finding that middle ground. Like, you know, that's being human. That's the hard part about being human. So
yeah. It's how we work.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to be irrational to not blow your brains out in a world as random and chaotic as this. I think our cognitive biases are a defense mechanism to protect us from the harshness of our reality.
Yeah, for sure. All right, last question. It's pretty lighthearted. Where is your favorite place in the world and why? People have said their house, so like don't feel like you have to be some crazy location. Mm-hmm. It can even be like a something really random. Like,
damn, that's a good question.
It could be multiple places too if you need to do more than one.
As far as cities go, like Los Angeles is my favorite place in the world. I lived there for like 7, 8 years before I came here. I'll probably be back there. LA and Miami are probably my two favorite places,
Hell yeah.
but
love
I like the
Miami.
Miami taxes.
Yeah. I'm from Florida, so I love Miami.
Yeah,
Miami's
Miami's a lot of
great.
fun. I'm trying to convince my wife to move out there, but her mom is moving to LA, so we're probably going to end up going back to California.
Yeah.
I'm
Big
not.
tax difference though.
Yeah, it's super significant.
From the most to the least, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Does Nevada have state
zero
tax?
percent, zero
There
percent
you
income,
go.
0% capital gains, baby. I actually
For
moved out here
real.
to launch a NFT collection.
Hell
I
yeah.
forgot to add that to the, launched the NFT collection last year under like an
What was it?
anonymous persona.
Oh, can
Can't
you not
tell
say?
you.
You can't tell me. My bad. You said anonymous as I
Yeah.
asked.
It's not super hard to figure out. I wasn't very good about the anonymousness, but
Dope.
yeah, it was fun.
Cool.
I love
Well, yeah.
NFTs. I'm gonna get back into that again. Anyways, I'm
I
done.
feel like I feel like NFTs have started to maybe like come a little bit back into the mainstream a little bit. We'll see if that lasts. But yeah. Okay, where can people find you if they want to talk more? Where can they find Decrypt PubDAO? You're also part of Reflexer. You kind of mentioned that, but
Yeah.
um,
You can find me on Twitter at Reza Joffrey. It's RezaJaffery. On Discord, I'm Reza #5555. And yeah, hit me up. Always down to talk DAOs, media, privacy, censorship resistance, Ponzi schemes.
hell yeah.
Don't show me your
Hell yeah.
NFTs, please.
Yeah, we'll have all of Reza's links and all of his projects links in the show notes. But Reza, this has been a long time coming, getting you on DAO Talk. Thank you so much for joining, my friend. And I look forward to more content out of PubDAO, out of Decrypt, and hopefully collabing on the future. So thank you for joining.
Awesome. Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
See you, man.